had an emergency in the kitchen. Shrimp was cooking themselves in the heat in the kitchen, so I had to go season it right quick.
Man, burning the house down, man.
I said season, bro. There's no stove on. Don't do that to me, Mike. See, Carl quiet because Carl don't know about that. Seasoning, Carl's like, what's that? What's that?
Listen, man, I got a funny story. I'll tell you later. I'm not going to put myself on blast right now. I got a funny story about that.
Yo, Carl, you know the salt goes on the meat, right? Not next to it.
Shut up. Shut up, man. Hey, shut up. We are live, so I can't even say what I really want to say to you.
Facebook gonna ban you.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep it respectful.
Yo, Mike, who's the greatest quarterback of all time?
Here we go.
Oh, we're going to start this again?
Who's the greatest?
Who cares?
Say his name. Say his name.
I don't care.
Say his name.
I don't care.
Say his
Joe
name.
Montana? Are we talking
Say his
about Joe
name.
Montana?
Now the person said, remember he needed the most yards or the most touchdowns, right?
Yeah, can you see? Can you lower your mic possibly, or I don't know if it's.
Let's see.
It's Joe Montana.
I'm like an old man that. Let's see. That's me.
Joe Montana is the best quarterback. That's what I know.
There you go, Mike. Give him something. I mean, who cares about football, man? No one cares.
It's a lot.
No one cares. No one cares, man.
That's a stretch. I mean,
no one cares, man. I don't care. How about that?
Say that. Say that.
I don't
care. Say
man.
Pastor Mike doesn't care.
Man. I don't care, man.
We are live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Carl Coulange for the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Before I introduce my panel, we have some sad news. 2020 continues to take our legends away from us. Diego Maradona passed away today, a soccer legend, and he was able to win the World Cup in 1986. Made it to 4 World Cups between 1982 and 1994. So thoughts and prayers out to his family. The sports world is mourning today. So we send our thoughts and prayers out to the Maradona family. And 2020 continues to, we got 4 weeks left, and I'm hoping this year ends on a positive note, but it seems every month or every other week there's sad news. So thoughts and prayers out to his family. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today? Mikey Mike, how you doing, sir? Mike Phillips.
What's going on? I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. I'm on the heavy hitter panel. I gotta tell you, I didn't know I was.
You're an original. You're an original, man. Man. Original's here.
I didn't know I signed a contract to be with the pros, but I'm glad that I got called up.
Nah, you're not on the B squad. We know the vibes already. We know what it is.
I appreciate that.
Pastor Mike Miller, how you doing, sir?
Great, man. This is really a family conversation, man.
For sure.
Awesome, man.
We have Greg Polius, who came from his kitchen. He's getting ready for the Thanksgiving special tomorrow. Greg, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Don't burn the house down, man. Come on, don't take it.
My name is not Carl Coulange, so that will not happen.
And we have the football god, my cousin Kenny Irby. Kenny, how you doing, sir?
What up? Mic check. Is my volumes all right?
Yeah, you're good, sir.
Kenny sound like he's still in the studio.
No, we'll know when Kenny's in the studio. We'll hear his voice down the hall. When Kenny's in the studio, we know we hear that. But today I wanted to talk about LeVar Ball and the parent role in sports. And that's what we're going to open today's segment with. First and foremost, let me just give a shout out to my panel right now are all fathers. And gentlemen, I don't know if you guys know this, but I look up to you guys as fathers, being in the father role and everything that you do with your kids. I'm not a father yet, but I hope one day when I am that I'm just man that you guys are with your kids. I love seeing Mike Miller play thumb wrestling with his son on Instagram. You know, I love Greg Polius playing baseball with his son. I love seeing Kenny with his daughters and his son all the time, and Mike with his daughters.
We got a special guest.
Yeah, and look at that. Speaking of being a father, we have Greg with his daughter right now. You know, so
just banging on the door for me to open it.
So I can't praise you guys enough for being fathers out there and doing well to your kids. But today we're here to talk about parents in sports. And LeVar Ball has been a topic of conversation. A lot of people feel that he's disrespectful the way he goes about, I guess, parenting his kids in sports. Some people don't have a problem with it. So I thought to myself, you know what, let's have the conversation with fathers who have, kids who are playing sports or who will one day play sports. So Mike Miller, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on LeVar Ball and also parenting? And are you parenting your kids now and putting them in different sports? And how do you go about it?
Well, Man, thanks for this. This is such a great topic too, and it's important, having fathers here, just parents in general, always have to be challenged with this. And I think just particularly just for LeVar, it's a couple of ways you can look at it. You could see it as if his ultimate goal was, as he said, to get his kids into the NBA. He got 2 out of 3 sons. So for him, that's a success. But in a larger perspective, this conversation, especially starting at such a small level, my oldest kid is 6. So he just started in sports. And so it's kind of what is your intended goal? So his goal, LeVar Ball's goal, was for them to be successful and go to the professional level. But other parents, like for myself, that's not my goal for my children. The reason why my kids are playing sports, and particularly my son started playing basketball, was to socialize and connect with other kids, learn discipline, things of that nature. Things I teach them, but it can be reinforced in sports. So that's really what this question boils down to in terms of parenting: is what is your intended goal for your children? Because if it is from the standpoint of going professional, then that is how you will approach not only the sport they choose, but how you parent them in that sport. If you take a different route where you're not solely focused on the professional level and you're worried about other things within the sport, then that's also how you will approach your parenting style and with the sport, and etc. So that's just my thoughts early on.
So Kenny, you haven't been really in favor of LeVar Ball and his antics. Could you elaborate a little bit on why you don't favor LeVar and how he parents, and possibly how do you parent yourself and having kids who do play sports?
Well, my job is not to really judge anybody's parenting style or how they want to parent their kid. That's not my issue with it. It's more, if I break it down even further, I don't think it's parenting. I just don't like the way he basically became the poster child for being a Black father, because he's stuck around for his kids. Like, that is an anomaly in some sort, you know what I mean? Because if we're looking at success, like Archie Manning had 2 kids who went first round and got 2 Super Bowls apiece. So it's not about fatherhood, it's about Black fatherhood. And as far as Black fatherhood, you're supposed to be there for your kids. You're supposed to guide. And like, my whole thing about being parenting is like, you're supposed to be there to support your kids, guide your kids, and then you let them breathe, And my problem with LeVar Ball is, like, he did what he had to do as far as get his kids where they needed to be. I think his antics and just his personality got Lonzo to the 2nd pick in the draft. I don't think his skill level, especially if you look back at the draft now and you see some of the people that went after him, I don't think his skill level at that time suggested he was the number 2 pick. But he played in a high-profile school, and his father said some outlandish things, and he became a household name off of that. And I think Magic Johnson wasn't necessarily great at his job, and he kind of fell for the okie doke, and he drafted him high when it was unnecessary. When there were later picks, there were people that went later that should have went higher than they did. Right? Hindsight 2020, but it is what it is. But Magic, I think, kind of fell for the okie doke. But LeVar Ball, I don't think is necessarily the great choice to be the poster child for Black fatherhood in America. And that's my whole problem with it. There's other people, like, you could get Kyrie Irving's father, who was a single parent, and his wife passed away at an early age, and he had to take care of his son. And look what his son became. You know what I mean? There's plenty of examples of athletes. You got the Holiday brothers. All 3 of them are in the NBA. You don't see them posting about, like, parents are supposed to support their children and then get out the way. He used it as an opportunity to kind of further himself business-wise, fame-wise. I think he wanted to get accolades that he not necessarily got when he was playing professional sports. And then I think he went left with it. He did what he had to do by getting Lonzo picked. I think he should have stepped away. Instead, he tried to get more of the limelight, get more of the fame, get more of the adulation. And then it kind of became a detriment, because now you got the middle son who people didn't want to touch, really mess with like that. And then he takes the younger son out of high school so he could play overseas. And I just feel it was an unnecessary path. It was a harder path that he had to take, when I think the path it was kind of laid out for him. So I just have a problem with his antics and him being the poster child of Black fatherhood. That's his thing. That's not necessarily, he shouldn't be boasted because he stuck around and raised his kids. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, bro.
Right.
You're supposed to open the door and say, say, old lady's walking across the street. You want to help her across the street? Yeah, I don't even thank you for that.
Okay.
And that was my whole thing about it. So
okay. So Mike, are your daughters in Mike Phillips? Are your daughters in any sports? Just jump into this conversation. What are your thoughts on LeVar Ball and how parents should go about kids playing sports?
So my 4-year-old daughter just got into competitive dance, right? She's in a dance group that is going to be competing in Atlantic City, competing at different dance recitals, right? So I'm not in the sports world just yet, but I could see, as a fan of the sports and watching it and remembering when I was on the field, there's a certain dynamic to fathers in the game or parents in the game. They're going to be your biggest fan, right? My father passed away when I was younger, so my mother was my biggest fan. And my mother would always try to boost me up with my athletic ability. I knew I was horrible. I knew I was the 12th man. On
Not worse than me,
roster.
Mike. Not worse than me.
Listen, I knew I was the 12th man on a 9-man roster, but at least she always made me feel number one. So there is always that ability to make a child feel better about themselves. But it gets to go too far. So going off of what Mike and Kenny both said, I think that a lot of fathers kind of take their children's athletic ability and they start living through it, right? So they start living through it and they start trying to aspire to be what their kids are going to be because they couldn't do it in their past life. They couldn't do it what they were doing. So that's why they pushed them even harder. And that's where you have the silver lining of whether or not it is detrimental to a development of a child or if it's just, tough love. Because what I didn't like about LeVar Ball is, yes, his goal was to get his children into the NBA. But LaMelo will never get a college education, at least for now. Where is his educational development? One of those things that we say when we try to push children to go into the college, especially as athletes, is because you're a student-athlete. You are both. You are getting an education and your athletic ability. Now, he did admit his abilities were to get his main goal was to get his kids into the NBA. He did that. He put his kids overseas. He did it all on athletic ability. But I could see also where his character, where he came out as a certain person with Lonzo because he had to have that certain bravado because, as Kenny said, to get his son not only on athletic ability, but get his name out there to push him even more higher into the draft. Once he had that bravado and once he had that character trait about him, there's no way of losing that. So, of course, he's going to come back with LaMelo, and, of course, he's going to have the same type of demeanor and the same type of talk because that is who he is. So when you look at the main focus of what a parent is supposed to do, a parent is always supposed to lift up a child. It's always supposed to lift up their child and always supposed to be their best friend and their biggest fan. But at the same time, you also need to teach them sportsmanship. You need to teach them sportsmanship. And if you're not teaching them sportsmanship because of your antics outside, what's really going to happen? And I also have a special fan. Come on. Say hi.
Hey, how you doing, baby girl?
I'm talking about you and dance. So that's my take on it, that there's a silver lining of whether or not, and it's a tough line to pass because you could either have tough love or you could be like, my child is the best and I'm going to make sure they're the best, and you push them too far where they might actually not do well.
Okay.
Because it takes over them.
Polius, you're on the floor. You want me to let you cook? So go ahead and cook, sir.
I have a lot of disagreements with the panel, especially Kenny and Mike Phillips, because what I'm hearing is a lot of conjecture, projection, and media fitting into media bias and narratives. So I'm gonna start with Kenny. You spoke about Black fathers and Black fatherhood and how LeVar became the poster child, right? LeVar didn't become the poster child because he wanted to. The media put him on that pedestal and pushed that narrative. The same way the media pushed the narrative that Black fathers are absent. So this is not something that LeVar was like, you know what, I'm the best Black father out there. That's what you took from it. And then you said, him putting himself out there was problematic but him putting himself out there also got Lonzo Ball the second pick and got picked higher than he should. So that's a contradiction in itself. So technically, as a father,
he had to get out the way also.
I'm gonna get to that. You said he had to get out the way, right? But this is where I say the conjecture comes in. You say he had to get out the way. Maybe your idea of parenting doesn't work for you. For his parents, it doesn't work for you, but it works for him. And I'm gonna give a quick example.
That wasn't parenting, bro. That wasn't parenting. That was.
Bro, can I speak? Can I speak?
Well, you addressing me, so I'm addressing
so
you.
Let me finish, and then you can address me after I finish.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll address you each point.
I
express my memory.
So if I'm coaching on the field, right, and we've been practicing, we have a set play, and this play is not carried out how it's supposed to be, and this kid is the same one that's been messing up in practice all the time, messes up in the game. I rip into him on the field. On the outside looking in, other parents may be like, this guy's a horrible coach because of the way he treats his players on the field. Not realizing that in the backdrop, I've been working on this for hours on end, and this is the fault of the player not coming through. But that same player that I chewed out on the field is also the same player that hits me up for advice whenever he needs it, because he looks up to me as a coach-like figure, as a father-like figure. So it's all in the eyes of the beholder, right? Just because what you see on the outside is what you think, that doesn't mean what it is. On top of that, and you saying he has to get out the way, and there was another point you made about LaMelo, right? Now, you said he should have stayed in high school. Who are you to say that? What, his son was the third pick of the draft, so clearly what he did worked. And to just, Mike Phillips, you said, where's his education? Where is college going, bro? Where's college going?
Well, you see, as the professor in here, that's a topic for another day. We're not.
And wait a second. That's
a topic for another day. We're not going to listen. Education.
Don't do that, Carl.
Listen, as an educator. Listen. As an educator, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and allow you to say that. Where's education?
No, you got to let me finish.
Where's the education? I'm going to make you
say that. That's not going to happen.
Bro, I want to be a college professor, right?
But you have to let it go there. Let it go there.
Let me cook, right? You said you was gonna let me cook. Let me cook.
Go ahead.
What is the biggest issue with Black families in this country? They don't build generational wealth, right? LaMelo is now in a position to get paid to start building that generational wealth. Okay, he is now set up in that framework. Just like Vince Carter, who is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame, went back to school to get his degree. We as adults can always go back to school to get our degree. We have to stop pushing this narrative that it's college or nothing else. College is always going to be there. The goal is to build for family, right? You can still build for family, being an NBA player, and then going to college. They have an offseason, correct? Who's to say they can't do it? And Vince Carter is not the only player that did that. So to say that, to give this cliche, like, where's his education? To me, that's a false narrative that we're trying to push. Meanwhile, he has 3 sons affiliated with NBA organizations. The JBA worked so much so that the G League took their model. So if we're going to say he's a bad parent, which is what I have issues with, we have to look at all the facts.
Who said that?
No.
Who said he was a bad parent?
No.
No one said he was a bad parent.
No.
No one ever said that.
Mike, but if you read social media forums, that is a lot of what is pushed.
But I'm not social media. I'm Mike Phillips, and I'm telling you, I didn't say that. And if you're addressing this forum,
I ain't cutting none of y'all off. Let me speak. Let me speak.
Okay, Greg. Go ahead. Okay, Greg, go ahead. Finish your point.
Address people. What you think they're not going to respond if he
the same way y'all had your point, and I disagree with majority of what y'all said. I waited my turn. I need y'all to
call everybody's name, Greg.
I need y'all to do the same.
Okay, guys. Okay, Greg, finish your point because the rest of the panel wants to chime in here. Go ahead.
You called their name, bro.
Go to mommy.
Yeah.
Please. Mommy needs you.
Go ahead, Greg.
We're waiting.
So, I'm sorry. I just got yelled at because my son's after school can hear him because y'all got me hot. But what I was saying made me lose my damn point, man. Go ahead, man. Y'all killing me.
Mike and Kenny, he ain't addressing me here. Address y'all.
I know. I'm just watching. All I'm saying is that whole education. Okay, Kenny, go ahead. Go ahead, Kenny.
All right. First of all, I said it made LaMelo's road harder, not necessary.
How, Sway? How did it make it harder? He's now more prepared for the NBA.
Can we hear him? We heard you. We heard you, Greg. Let's hear this man. Like,
So he was junior in high school playing in Pasadena, and then you take him to Croatia, you take him all over Europe, you take him to Australia, you take him, then he's playing in Cleveland, he's playing at a prep school. He could have just stayed in high school, played 1 year at UCLA, and has still been the 3rd pick in the draft.
You don't know that. That is conjecture. That's my point.
His name was already out there. All he had to do was ball like he did.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
he was straight.
they have rankings.
Wait a second.
He pulled him from high school. He didn't pull him necessarily. He didn't necessarily go a couple. He pulled him from high school, right?
But they had rankings on where LaMelo was going to go. They had rankings. It's
And
not like
my point, he's now more prepared for the NBA more so than those guys in college because he played against grown men.
Before. So anyway.
But wait a second. Can I?
Hold on, Mike, real quick,
Go ahead,
Mike.
Ken. Go ahead.
And as far as generational wealth, listen, my whole thing is like, he told Lonzo not to take any of the sneaker deals so he could build his own sneaker brand. And then that failed. And then cost and then he's hurting his ankles trying to promote his shoe line. And then he has to cut business dealings with his father because they're stealing money from him. How is that building generational wealth? How is that helping his kids out? It was him trying to basically build something for himself through his kids. He's using his kids as a tool to get for himself. And that's what I have a problem with. As I said before, I'm not here to judge people's parenting style. But as far as the aesthetics and the media making him the poster child of Black fatherhood, yeah, they did. And he leaned into it. He agreed with it. He didn't shy away from it. So that's what I have a problem with. Go ahead, Mike. You got it.
No, I got a big problem. I got a big problem with the fact that you're talking about generational wealth, and I understand that. And I never knocked what LeVar Ball did. I knocked what he
You just did it.
First of all, let me speak now. You want to speak? I'm going to speak. You want to speak? I'm going to speak.
Let's go.
You want to
Mike.
get me loud? I'm going to get loud.
No, Mike.
Now let me
Go ahead,
speak.
Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Because you're putting words in my mouth now.
Come on, Mikey. Talk to him.
First of all, what I said is what LeVar's goal was to get his kids in the NBA. Did he do that? Yes, he did. What I don't like is where is the education? Because if we're giving generational wealth, we're giving the whole media aspect, as you like to call it, the fact that you can just leave high school, go overseas, and you can possibly make the NBA. That's what we're telling people. What you need to do is for the generation that is not going to make the NBA, because I can tell you how many students I work with as an admissions counselor that want to go to the NBA and want to play Division I and can't even shoot a basketball. But
Do
because of what
you
they
judge
see,
everything on a blanket perspective? No, you take everything on a case-by-case basis.
this is not a case-by-case basis. This
Okay. So Mike has been patient. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Let's first of all, a couple of things. Greg, you made it broad and talked about generational wealth. Can you explain why we have a lack of generational wealth? Do you think it's because a lot of us aren't playing in the NBA?
No.
I can answer that. It's basically being educated on it.
The reason we don't have generational wealth. Okay, so just quick, we're gonna just do history now since we walked into it. Okay, there's 42 million people. There's 42 quote unquote Black people that live in America. 8 million are Caribbean and African. 36 million are ADOS, American descendants of slavery. That 36 million, they went through 246 years of chattel slavery, 100 years of Jim and Jane Crow. That's why we don't have generational wealth. It's not because a lot of us aren't playing basketball.
I never said it was.
No, but what I'm saying is you brought that into this conversation as if LeVar was an individual being an individual capitalist. That has nothing to do with a community not having generational wealth. When you said the Black community doesn't have generational wealth and you tie it to LeVar Ball, you're misunderstanding why we don't have generational wealth.
No. Don't tell me I'm misunderstanding.
LeVar being an individual
misunderstood my point. That's what I'm saying.
He's an individual. All I'm saying is he's an individual capitalist. Him being an individual capitalist doesn't boost the generation, the group of why we don't have generational wealth, in the way that if LeBron James is a millionaire, doesn't mean all of us have money. So I just wanted to just dispel that notion that that's how we're going to get generational wealth, is all of us play in basketball. Which, to Mikey's point, is most of us won't. Which goes back to Kenny's point. If we're talking about education, statistically, we all know this. People are more successful with a college education than without it. That's not, we can't debate that.
We're not debating that.
And that's what I'm saying. So that's their point, is that education, particularly in the middle son, LeAngelo was taken out of college. A 4-year degree at UCLA, a top 10 school in this country, prepares him for life. But again, if LeVar's only plan was basketball, I get it. But now that middle son doesn't get to play basketball, what is his future now? College, we know this to be a fact. 46%, at most people, are more successful when they go to college in terms of economics. We know this. Now that son does not have that pathway. Now they're a rich family, so he may be able to be an entrepreneur or whatever. But what Kenny's point, I think he's making, and what Mike's point is that LeVar, in his vision of what he wants them to do, cut them off from an opportunity to be successful on their own.
So, two things, right? Hold on.
He's got to get to the parenting.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's all we got to do.
That's part of the job, man. That's part of the job.
Tells me that either I wasn't clear enough or you didn't understand what I'm saying. And also, if you take issue with him pulling his kids out, do you also take issue with these college players that leave after 1 year of school? Do you take issue with that?
Yes.
Mike?
Because not a lot of them will finish. Not a lot of them will finish.
But remember, Kenny's premise was and the question of all of this is about parenting, and parenting means you guide your kids and lead them to the best path. And I think Kenny and Mikey's point is that LeVar chose his own path for them, as opposed to giving them the opportunity to choose their own path. He took them out of college just because he had a vision that all three would go to the NBA. That was his vision. We don't know that was their vision. We know that was his vision. That's the only point.
I think LaMelo was taken out either his sophomore or junior year or something like that, right?
After he sold LeAngelo was taken out after he sold it overseas. They took him out of school.
My point was to address Mike's point, saying that where is the education? Okay, when you ask a broad question like that, to me, you're not focusing on what actually matters, right? Which is, what is the parent trying to do for the child? The parent is trying to get his child in the best possible position for him to land in the NBA, correct? That's what he was doing. Is that what you all said?
Him personally, yes. That's
what we're talking about. That's what you said he was doing. Okay. He accomplished that. And Kenny saying his path was harder, right, is conjecture, because we don't know that. And quick little question for you, Mike Miller. Because you said it's all about what the child wanted to do. When I was going into high school and I was taking entrance exams for Catholic schools, and I wanted to go where I wanted to go, and my parents were like, no, these are the 3 schools that you are going to put on your list. Is that bad parenting because my parents are telling me what I'm supposed to do?
Remember Kenny's point. Kenny said he never attached the word bad to the parenting. What he said is that his point was that in general, you made the role more difficult. And to your question, your parents should have given you the freedom to decide, because again, part of our parenting means we raise our kids, teach them certain things so that when they get to a certain age, as Kenny said earlier, they're able to make informed and intelligent decisions, not us making decisions for them their whole lives.
Yeah,
can I jump in for a second?
But you know what, Greg, I want to say this though. Pulling your kid out of high school and deciding where to go to high school, that's a different level of decision making for a kid.
Absolutely. He's on the projection to be a top NBA pick. So playing against grown men was a calculated decision to get him more prepared for the NBA.
But can we be fair? Part of that was because he did not like the coach that they had.
Right. The report calculated like the coach. Is because
he wouldn't let him go tantrum.
Hold on, I didn't hear what you said, Kenny.
He had a temper tantrum. He didn't like the coach, so he pulled his kids out of school.
So it wasn't the long-term plan of going overseas. It was he didn't like the coach that they had and got the coach fired.
Can I jump in for a second?
Let me be real clear. While I don't agree with everything LeVar did, but I think the way we paint him, right, in the media and as this quote unquote, glory hogs quote, we haven't seen LeVar in a while on media sets. Why is that? Because when he was the media put him out there, they no longer put him out there. We don't hear him. All of a sudden,
you know why though, right? Because he said something to Molly Qerim and ESPN.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he stopped. And ever since then, you started seeing a little bit less of LeVar on
doing
television.
too much.
And his business ties with him. So now his brand is not what it was.
Well, his brand is not what it was because his business partner stole money. Like
no,
that he brought in to his business partner.
And he had a bad business model anyway. Look, we ain't gonna get into that, bro.
Listen, can I jump in? Come on, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
How did he have a bad business model if the G League stole the model?
We talk about big baller brand. That was
okay, guys. 1 second, Mike. Go ahead, Mike Phillips.
I want to just share something to put my point across with the education, because I know that was a big topic that was brought up and disputed. The reason why I bring up education and that fact of going to the most educational opportunities that you can is because, Carl, I'm sorry to use the word, but what if that athlete is to get severely injured in that sport? What are they going to do? Their contracts are null and void. Hold on.
School is not going anywhere, bro.
How many of them go back? Please look up the statistics.
You're the admissions director. You tell me.
How many of them go back? How many of them go back? Because at that point, they're like, you know what? I'm already done with my career. I'm going to find something else.
Let me
and
ask you a question.
Half of them don't go back to school.
Let me ask you a question. Do we not have continuing education systems for adults in this country in college?
But do they go back? Answer my question. Do you have the statistics?
You can't give me a specific number. You can't
do they go back?
Again, this is conjecture. You don't know. We had guys in the NBA that actually went back while in the league.
And the NFL and MLB, yes, we do have athletes that have done it. But I'm saying,
do you have a statistic
that says all of those students that have gotten left early from college went back and completed their degree, or the ones that did not go to college have gone back because they had a career-ending injury and now need a professional job and now don't have a college education, so they're going back? How many statistical numbers can you show me on that? And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about everyone that has done it, whether white, black, purple, anybody. It doesn't matter.
You are the admissions director. You give me the numbers.
Needs to be the biggest sportsmanship and being there for your child.
Okay, guys, we're coming up on time. Yeah, we're coming up on time. I just want to get everyone's final thoughts here. Kenny, what are your final thoughts?
You were supposed to make this a whole topic.
I did, and you guys,
cut everybody else off.
I'm sorry, guys.
You have the 18
we can do a
for a
part
reason.
two. We could do a part two.
Had this type of energy, you were supposed to make this a longer show. See, you messed up, man. You knew he was gonna come with the spice.
You have the 18
we can make
for
a part
a reason.
next week. Listen, we can keep the fans wanting more and have them come back next week and do a part two. Kenny, what are your final thoughts here?
So, like I said, a parent's job is to guide, support, and if opportunities rise from your child's exploits, then great. But to leverage your kids, to leverage fame and fortune out of it, I think that's when it gets a little out of bounds for my taste. And that's what I feel like he did. He just leveraged his kids so he could build his own brand, so he could build a basketball league, so he could do the sneakers and oversight and just say, look, I did it my way and this is the right way and yada, yada, yada. And it didn't work out that way. Yes, his kids still got drafted, but I just feel like it was more, I mean, the middle one didn't work out for him, but the younger one, he was always a top prospect anyway. And then he just kind of, as long as he didn't mess it up, he'll do all right. But, history will judge all at the end of the day. But he left a bad taste in my mouth the way everything went about.
Greg?
So when people start out in new business ventures, they don't always like this. What's the success rate of new business ventures? It's not very high unless you have, significant funding behind it or powerful people. Yet he was still able to get something off the ground and build a model in the JBA that was actually taken and used by the G League now, and that's the model they use. As far as the Big Baller brand, there were definitely some missteps there. I'm not gonna say agree with Ken that he was leveraging his kid's future to put his own. I think he got a taste of the media limelight and felt he could use his image to push his kids further. To Kenny's point, how Lonzo ended up being a number 2 pick and maybe where he shouldn't have been. And I really think that if the end of the day, and we keep shitting on Jello is in the G League right now. He may not make an NBA league roster, but he's a lot closer than a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? He's on OKC's G League team.
Okay, Greg, go ahead. Were you done?
I was just about to finish. I'm just saying that we have to stop looking at it from this perspective as he's only about himself when the goal was to get his kids in the league, and he did that.
Mike Phillips?
Well, first and foremost, Greg, I salute you. I could debate you all day, and I love it. And it's all out of love. So if we get heated, it's always out of love.
But of course, bro. No,
but what it comes down to is I feel like a parent is always supposed to be uplifting a child, right? They're always supposed to uplifting their child. When it comes to athletics, when it comes to competitive sports, yes, is there a talent that's there? Absolutely. If you see a talent there, you're going to want to push it. You're going to want to help that child grow. And hopefully it turns into something. But at the end of the day, some parents take it too far. Some parents push it where that's the end all be all. And it's not. And sometimes that's a detriment of the child, where it's pushing them too hard in the weight room, pushing them too hard on the court, where if they don't score 50, you're yelling at them in the locker room, stuff like that. That's what I mean by the fine line. And you got to be careful with that. With LeVar Ball, I understand what his end goal was, and I appreciate what he did for his children, putting their needs first with the athletics. I have problems with the educational part, and I explained why, but I explained that on a holistic approach. Whatever LaMelo does in the NBA, whatever Lonzo does in the NBA, whatever LiAngelo does in the NBA, whatever they do, I understand it. But at the end of the day, he did what he had to do to get them there. But I think, yes, I understand that the media took it too far, but there was also him as a character that he created. He had to be the villain, and he still is. And he creates himself like that and wants the media to continue to produce that.
Pastor.
Man, this is such a great conversation, and the media man only gave us a short amount of time, so we'll forgive him for his misstep. But in general, to our point of parenting and sports, LeVar notwithstanding, I just want to just a note specifically for the quote unquote Black community. I think it's time we have this deeper conversation and in general about our direction for what we want our children to do. Are we always so driven for our kids? Listen, we got enough people that are willing to see us sing and dance, but at some point we have to start asking, why is it that we're 81% of the NBA? We're 13% of the population. We're only 4% of doctors and 4% of psychologists. It's particularly Black men with psychology and the Black community having all the trauma, all the stress that we have, needing psychology, and Black women with the highest infant mortality rate that's going up. We need more Black doctors.
Well, not even to add, to add to that too, only 2% of Black males are teachers in this country.
Right. So when we start, and we all talked about it, when we start talking about parents and our job as parenting and what we would like to influence our kids and push our kids to, are we going to have a deeper conversation about, is it only just, well, they made it to the NBA, and so now that makes us successful, almost to Kenny's point of why is the bar so low, where it's just being a good basketball player now makes you a success, as opposed to you are the doctor that cured cancer, or you are the person that came in your community studying mental health up to the doctorate level, and you start helping these kids deal with their trauma of their friend getting shot down the block. Like, when are we going to start to have those conversations? Because those are those deep dives that we have to go to in this larger conversation about parenting and sports and how it intersects.
And that's the more influential conversation,
Carl.
That's the more influential.
Go ahead, Greg.
I just want to address Mike. Those conversations are happening within the community. The problem is you turn on the 11 o'clock news and it's negative to the last 5 minutes of the episode. You know what I mean? The media pushes a negative stigma on our community, and it's been that way for decades.
And that's why we have these convos to change that. And look, LeVar, look, we knew he was coming, and
Yes,
you let him in
he had
on
to wrap
purpose.
it up. No, I
him
did
in on
because
purpose.
I'm gonna let him wrap up. I let him in at the end.
Stop it.
I let him in at the
Y'all
end.
need to-
Anthony,
y'all-
Anthony, 1 minute. Go. 1 minute. Your thoughts on this, because I know you want to talk about Uncle LeVar.
Damn,
He got out
man.
the elevator and had to get on.
Go ahead. I know.
Yo,
Go ahead, bro.
for one, y'all need to stop all the false narratives, stop all of the emotions and everything, trying to basically your preconceived notions, trying to push them forward after they were again proved wrong by my Uncle LeVar, because again, he spoke it into existence and he told you, and what he said happened. What happened? Huh?
He said all
Did
three.
Lonzo not get drafted?
He told us all three. He told
Yo,
us
Kenny,
all
you
three.
look so interested in what Ant has to say.
So,
Yo,
hey,
I just want to see. Yo, can you just cut us out and let Ant and Kenny talk?
no. I mean,
That's
Andrew.
all I want.
I mean,
They still
Anthony.
have each other blocked. You
I
know
mean,
what's funny?
Anthony.
Kenny still has him blocked on
Kenny,
Facebook.
is he still blocked?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially from him. I mean, Anthony. How is the business not good? And his
Yo,
business
Ant, you
partner
got your
was
kinks? Did you get your
his
kinks?
business. Huh?
Did you get your kinks? Did you get your big baller brand sneakers?
No,
I don't want to hear it.
but that I ordered sneakers.
Didn't you order the slides? You got the slides.
No.
right?
You did order them.
3 years
No.
ago.
You ordered them kicks.
No.
Did you
Ordered
get
them when
those
Mike
kicks?
was living in
That's
New
all I'm
York.
asking.
You,
No.
Mike, he ordered them when you were living in New York. That's how long ago.
What
Mike.
That's what I'm.
What
You
I
know why
had-
I'm
His
asking
business partner
him.
took
You
your
know why I'm
money.
asking him.
What I
That's my
had-
brother. You know why I'm asking him.
What I
Yo,
ordered
your
came.
uncle took your
Now
money.
again, let's go back to again. His business partner was able to steal millions. How was it not a good business if they made millions? You didn't. Check their YouTube and stuff. What?
He stole Lonzo's money.
That again?
He said he
stole
stole
Lonzo's
Lonzo's money.
You heard what he said.
Lonzo's money if that was profits. What do you mean?
I don't know, man. Some shady business going on at
You
Big
didn't see
Baller.
the,
all right. You know what? Like I said, we'll do
check
a
your
part two
YouTube and see the lines that was down the block or whatever. And I had video when I was at the JBA game, and the lines was
You
again
went to
around.
a JBA game?
Of course I did. What do you mean did I go to a JBA game?
You support the family. I respect that. You support the family. I
Of course
respect
I
that.
did.
But he didn't play none of the
And
players, right?
again, what?
He didn't pay the players, so of course he had the money.
That
The
again?
players didn't get paid.
Ain't nobody
Who
get
didn't
paid,
get
man.
They didn't get paid.
They
Of course
did
he
get
had money.
paid. They did get paid. They really did.
Nobody got paid, bro.
They did get paid. What are you
No,
talking
they
about?
didn't. That's why the league folded. Think the players weren't getting
They
paid.
had no.
For
Nobody
one, the
got
league didn't
paid.
fold. For two, they did get paid. It was just two or three players who was. It was just two or three players that were saying they didn't get paid again because the guy who was running it was robbing everything and messing everything up.
Hey, bro.
All right,
So
guys, thank you so
without
much. You
that
know what,
happening,
Anthony?
y'all wouldn't have
Anthony,
anything to say. That's not LeVar's fault. Tell me
Anthony-
what about that is LeVar's
Anthony,
fault.
we'll do a part 2 next week, bro. If you want, we'll do a part 2 next week.
No, I need them to tell me what about that is LeVar's fault.
Did he pick the business partner? Did he pick
I
the
can't
business
even
partner?
hear you. There's too
You
much
picked
of an
him.
echo.
Did he pick the
Huh?
business partner?
Did he pick him?
He
Did he
did
give him
what?
access to the funds? What?
He gave him access to everything.
So he's a bad judge of character.
Who told us that then?
That's
Who told
so.
us that then? Who do you blame?
But
Who do you
it
blame?
happened. Agents,
mean he a bad judge of character.
managers, everybody,
Oh
lawyers.
my God.
It happens.
Nah, he a
People get
bad
robbed.
judge of character, man.
Oh,
Tim-
man. You
Tim
guys take
Duncan.
care. You know what?
His
You
agent
guys
robbed
take
him
care.
for hundreds of
I'll
millions.
talk to you guys soon. You
That's
guys
Tim
take care.
Duncan's
Thank you
fault?
for joining me.
Yo,
Anthony,
that's
I'll talk
all I
to you
want
later.
Tim Duncan got robbed for hundreds
guys-
of millions. That's Tim Duncan's fault?
Anthony, I'll talk to you later. And listen, we'll do a part 2, I promise.
No, is that Tim Duncan's
You
fault?
got it, right, Mike?
Yeah.
You got it, right? You guys take care.
Huh?
Later, bro.
Later.
Yo,
You're
peace,
watching the
bro.
Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Thank you for another.
Big baller. You already know Big B's.
Are you done? Can I transition to my next
No,
segment
Big
now?
B's,
My
Melo.
God,
He was
I'm trying
supposed to
to
go number
transition.
1, but they hated, so he went to Jordan number 3. It's
I'm
all
trying
good,
to
though.
transition to my next segment, and you're blocking me.
I'm sorry, my fault.
It's
Big
all
B's.
good. Thank you, man. I love you, bro. Thank you so much.
You already love you too. Later.
You're watching the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We're transitioning to our next segment. Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, or Steve Nash as my contributors come in. They're joining us. Ziggy Zig, are you here? Andres, are you here?
Yes,
Yo,
sir.
what's
Yes,
going
sir.
on? Is it
Listen, I
safe?
gotta keep the people wanting
Is
more,
it
man. I know
safe?
you got it's safe. I know you guys want to see the rest of that segment, but I had to keep the people wanting more. You get what I'm saying? Like I had to
Listen, I understand what you're saying, man, but that was a wonderful segment. Like I was very in tune to it. I don't have kids
Yeah.
myself, but I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was definitely one for the ages. And you know what's crazy? And you know how these segments are developed. For those who don't know, we're in the group chats daily. Like the hit list has like a different group chat for every single sport. And we were talking about LeVar, and I said, you know what? Let's have this conversation. And I knew we know what Kenny can bring. We know what Mike Phillips can bring. I didn't see that side coming from Mike Phillips at all, but he definitely did bring the heat. Shout out to him. And we know what Greg can bring. And
Oh,
so,
now come on. We know Mike from SFC days. We know how he give it up.
for
It's
sure,
a matter
for
of time.
sure. Mr. Numbers, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing amazing as always, brother. You know the vibes, healthy, working. That's all we can ask for.
God bless. Manny Schefter, what's up, sir?
What's going on, gentlemen? Yo, that last convo, that was spicy.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
spicy.
That's what we
I
do
think-
here in the Hitless streets. That's what we do here.
I think security in the building was about to pull up and like, yo, where's Kenny at, man?
And we got the co-founder, Mr. Ziggy Zig himself. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, man? What's going on? I'm glad to be here. Man, you can take off that garbage Nets jacket.
Watch your mouth.
This
Watch
segment,
your mouth.
I got to give the flowers and Ray Jarvis's words to Mr. Andres Rivas. He tagged me. He said, Carl, you know what to do. He basically mentioned Chris Paul and Jason Kidd, I believe it was. And then I think Steve Nash got torn into. So I said, you know what? Let's have ourselves a triple threat a match here at the Sports Hit List where we talk about all three players, Chris Paul, Steve Nash, and Jason Kidd. So Andres, the floor is yours. You believe Chris Paul is better than the other two. What's your case?
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, before we get started, you know, I'm not an inspirational speaker, but I do like to say some words. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to all the people that are watching us. Whatever conspiracy theory you have about Thanksgiving, just throw it out the window. Like me personally, I celebrate Thanksgiving because I'm thankful. Thankful I have family. Thankful there's food on the table. Thankful I got to see another day. You know, a lot of people don't get to see another day. A lot of people don't get to see food on the table. So we got to be thankful for the little things in life, even though we're in the midst of the 2020 crisis. But we're healthy. We're working. There's food on the table. What more can you ask for? So
Amen.
Happy Thanksgiving to all the families that are watching us out there. That's for one. Number two, I mean, what's not to say about Christopher Emmanuel Paul, the point guard, the greatest point guard that I've seen with my two eyes besides Mr. Wardell, Stephen Curry, who I believe is the second greatest point guard of all time. Chris Paul, when you think about Chris Paul, you think about a leader. You think about sacrifice. You're thinking about someone that can impact everyone around him. You're thinking about efficiency. You're thinking about someone that is a superstar. And the league was like, you know what? We can't let this guy team up with Kobe Bryant. Like, that's how good Chris Paul was in his prime. So when you're thinking about Chris Paul, you're thinking about assists, steals, rebounder, points per game, floor general, the point guard. I mean, we're going to get into it soon, but I'm going to leave those in a few words.
Ziggy Zig, you making the case for the two-time MVP. What's your case?
Rightfully so, the two-time MVP. Steve Nash, one of the greatest point guards to ever grace an NBA floor. I'm giving it to him. You heard Andres talk about efficiency. I definitely don't think of efficiency when I hear Chris Paul. That more so goes to Steve Nash. I'm talking one of 7 players to be in, what is that called? The 50, what's that club called?
50, 40, 90
50,
club.
40,
50,
90
40,
club.
90 club,
Yes,
exactly,
sir.
right? And he came close again, but he got 50, 40, 88. So Steve Nash was one of the most efficient point guards, capable of shooting. I'm not even going to get into the part about his passing skills. I'll leave that when we get into the full debate. But Steve Nash, efficiency, great shooter. I won't say scorer, great shooter from all levels of the floor.
So Manny, I know you're the resident Jason Kidd and the Nets fan. Clearly, as we can tell, you got the Nets throwback on. You got the Brooklyn Nets hat on. So what are your thoughts here? How does Jason Kidd even fit into this conversation?
He don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Okay, Zig. Anyways, my man was the first player to ever record 15,000 points, 10,000 assists, and 7,000 in rebounds as a point guard. This man paved the way for all the point guards that we have currently in this day. Obviously, he's not the one to be the one to give you the 34 points, 40 points and stuff. This man was Mr. Triple-Double before Russell Westbrook. Let's remember that. This man has 107 triple-doubles career-wise. And he was third all-time in triple-doubles. But obviously, we know LeBron and Westbrook will beat that record. But let's put some respect on Jason. Let's put respect on Jason Kidd's name. This man turned an entire franchise around. Literally in his first season joining. His first team When he was with the Suns, before he got drafted by the Mavericks, when he was with the Suns, he went to the playoffs every single time he was with the Suns for 5 years. The minute he gets traded to the Nets before that had 26 wins. What happened his first year with the Nets? 52 wins. My man took him to the finals, put up great numbers to help his team excel. Obviously, we got swept by the Lakers. No team in the East was beating that Lakers team. I'm sorry. Rest in peace to Kobe. And Shaq, one of the greatest centers of all time. They were not beating them. Let's just remember that. And we pushed the Spurs to 6 games.
So, Manny,
what have your two guys have done going to the finals?
That's a great point. I don't think his 2 players have been to the finals. The other 2 haven't. So
that's a fair statement.
So when we take a look at it, we have individual accolades for Chris Emmanuel Paul and also for Steve Nash, individual accolades, but Jason Kidd has the team accolades to help his team. So Ziggy, what do you have to say for that?
Steve Nash is better than Jason Kidd. That's all I got to say about that. You understand what I'm saying? Jason Kidd, for all the point guard duties that he developed and brought to the NBA and that we got to witness, watching him as a Phoenix Sun and as a New Jersey Net and as a Dallas Maverick, because I'm gonna give him that, and as a New York Knick, he definitely was doing his thing. But I'm not giving that to him. I'm taking that from him. I'm giving that to Steve Nash. Manny could sit here and talk about how Jason Kidd came over in his first season and developed the team and yada, yada, yada. Steve Nash came from Dallas, right, to Phoenix for his first season. And what did he do? He won an MVP. What did he do with Phoenix? From 29 games the season before, they improved all the way to 62. I believe that's a further margin in comparison to what Jason Kidd did. So Steve Nash is, like I told you before, is better than Jason Kidd to me, in my opinion. I see a lot of. I'm not trying not to curse, but I'm seeing a lot of nonsense in the comments here. Okay, I'm gonna let you go, see.
So now we talk about the team accolades. Jason Kidd bring his team to the finals. Steve Nash able to bring his team to 60 wins. Could we make that argument for Chris Emmanuel Paul when it comes to the team accolades? Andres.
So when we think about Chris Paul, we think about the only player in NBA history to lead the league in steals per games in 4 consecutive seasons. We think about the only player in NBA history to lead the league in assists and steals in at least 6 seasons. We think about a 10-time NBA All-Star, 4-time All-NBA first team, 7-time NBA All-Defensive team. The Clippers, prior to Chris Paul, they only had 7 playoff appearances. In the 6 seasons with Chris Paul, they made the playoffs every single year. So just like Manny wants to use that logic of Jason Kidd, yada, 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 whatever we want to say about Jason Kidd, the Clippers never missed the playoffs with Christopher Emmanuel Paul. Christopher Emmanuel Paul, in his 15 years in the NBA, he only missed the playoffs once, and that was because he was injured. He averages more points per game, more assists, more steals, higher player efficiency rating, higher offensive win shares. He has a higher Bucks plus minus. Regular season-wise, he's the man. Now I know what you guys are going to say. Oh, well, what did he do in the playoffs? Why couldn't he get his team to a conference finals? I'm glad you said that. When Chris Paul in 2010 got hurt and then he was like testing out free agency, he was supposed to get traded to the Lakers. And if you've been living under a rock, if you've only been watching the NBA for 2 or 3 years, you still know this because the NBA talks about it. We talk about it here in the Sports Hit List. All the Laker fans talk about it. Chris Paul was supposed to get traded to the Lakers, and David Stern, who had the rights of the Hornets at the time, he was like, you know what? No, that's just not going to happen. They were protecting their glory boy, Mr. 23, for the Chicago Bulls. We're not going to talk about that. Chris Paul finished top 5 in MVP in 08 and 09. He brought the Hornets from a lottery team to a 56-win team, and Chris Paul could have arguably, not going to say he should have, could have arguably won MVP in 2008. A lot of people like to say, well, listen, Jason Kidd brought the Nets to the finals. Okay, that's a cute story. You can't control who you play, but guess how many 50-win teams the Nets played in those 2 years? 1. Guess how many teams that won 40-plus games made the NBA Finals in NBA history? 15. The last team to win only 40-plus games and make the NBA Finals was the 03 Nets. The team prior to them was the 81 Rockets. The 81 Rockets only won 40 games. They won 40 and 42. And they lost to the Boston Celtics, led by Larry Bird.
Manny, what do you have to say for that? Manny, are you rolling your eyes over there? He doesn't seem to be paying attention.
Listen here. We all wish that CP3 did go to the Lakers. We all know that.
No, we don't. Stop
Well,
it. Go
you obviously, you're a
Hell yeah, we
Celtics
do.
fan.
no,
You're a
Hell
Celtics
yeah, we
fan.
do.
no, we don't. But go ahead.
So we understand that. But Chris Paul, the difference between Jason Kidd and these two other point guards, Chris Paul and Steve Nash are scorers, scoring point guards. Jason Kidd was a patch first point guard.
Steve Nash was not a pass first point guard?
With the Suns?
Yeah.
My man put up what, 30 points, 20 points and stuff like that?
I think
He
he averaged
averaged
13,
15 and 11 for his first
Yeah, he
season.
didn't average that much as a.
He averaged 15 and 11 for his first season. He wasn't a scorer. He was a pass first guy, man. Even when he was playing in Dallas, he was the third option.
Man.
Okay. But all right, you got that. But first off, calm down. Because also in his first year with the Nets, Jason Kidd got snubbed for the MVP. Let's be real here.
Okay, so that's like me saying Chris Paul got snubbed for the MVP too. Chris Paul got better stats than
Was Chris Paul ever MVP? Or any top 5 or anything like that?
He was the MVP.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
asking.
oh wait, he was.
Oh wait, yeah, 08 and 09.
08 he was. He was in 08,
he
he
finished
was.
5th, and then 08 he finished 2nd behind Kobe.
Also, Ziggy, you talking about Steve Nash and stuff. Look at the teams that he had. Look at the players that he had. When did Jason Kidd have a guy like a Murray Stoudemire on his team? Now, granted, that's not his fault. He played in with his team. They got him whatever. But you compare those teams that he played, and also let's not forget, Jason Kidd played in the West as well. So if we're gonna try to throw this, he played in the East. They were weak. Andres, I'm talking about you. 50+ teams. Jason Kidd doesn't need to win 60+ games to make it to the finals. He helped his team. He was the main focal point of that team. Without him, they were not going anywhere. The Nets were going to be garbage without him in those years if you take him out.
But you could say
that's the biggest.
Wait. So tell me. When after Jason Kidd turned 33 years old, he became a role player in Dallas. When CP3 was 33 years old, he was up 3-2 on the Warriors. When Steve Nash was 35 years old, he went to 6 games with the 2010 Lakers. So what's Jason Kidd's excuse for his peak not being going into?
Oh, you know what? But you know what? To be fair, though, think about when Jason Kidd, he did go to a
Jason
Knicks
Kidd played
team,
in 19,
and then the Knicks team won 50 games that year.
Stop it.
I'm just being fair. Let's be honest here.
What are we talking about?
That's not a lie. That's a fact. I'm just making a fact. I'm just making a note, though.
That Jason Kidd. And I watched that team. Jason Kidd was absolutely amazing in that run with the Knicks. By the time the All-Star break came around, Jason Kidd was tired. He gave us basically nothing for the rest of the season and into the playoffs. So don't give me that. That's bullshit.
Chris Paul just turned 35 years old, and the Suns said, you know what? We need to pair him with Devin Booker. Were the Mavericks doing that with Jason Kidd at 35? No, they were a first-round exit.
At 35? What happened in 2011?
He was a role player. He wasn't the point guard.
He wasn't a star.
Who said
he wasn't a star? He was a role player.
He wasn't a star when he was with the Mavericks the second stint. We know that.
The second
he played
stint,
his
yeah.
role, but he was one of the main guys to help out with that team to win.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so let's talk about this though. Starting a franchise, you look at all 3 point guards that have great dynamic, and you can't go wrong. Who do you start your franchise with?
We already know my answer.
Chris Paul,
Steve Nash.
Listen,
but why?
Jason Kidd.
Make me a case. I'm starting a franchise. I have these 3 guys in the draft. Knowing what you know, who do you take?
Chris Paul.
Because
he was a better floor general, longevity. He was a scorer, first point guard, and he could give you 10 assists a game. His peak was longer than Steve Nash. He wasn't as efficient as Jason Kidd was.
Zig?
If you're looking to build right on a team, if you're looking to build a team and you're looking to grab a point guard, you want to grab Steve Nash, as I said, for the reason being that he was efficient. In today's NBA, you are seeing what it means to have a wonderful scorer, a wonderful shooter on your team. You see what it is now in today's NBA. If Steve Nash did not have the spinal injury that took out his career, who knows what could have been, or let's just say if he was playing in this time with the Trae Youngs and the John Morants and those guys, we know that he would be killing. And Carl, I know how you feel about that word if, but I don't give a damn about what you got to say about it.
We don't give a damn what Carl got to say.
You understand what I'm saying? And on top of that, Steve Nash, he showed you in Dallas that he can be the 3rd option behind Michael Finley and Dirk Nowitzki and still be an effective piece and still do it as the main guy, as we saw in Phoenix. All right, you could sit here and time out all you want. Steve Nash was the third option on Dallas, and then he started to rise towards the end of his tenure with that team.
Wait a minute. Didn't Carl? How many times did the Mavericks make the finals with Steve Nash? 0, correct?
Good point.
After Steve Nash left that team, what did the Mavericks do in 06?
They made it to the finals.
They made it to the finals.
That's a great point.
So you're saying because Steve Nash is not on that team, you're gonna blame Steve Nash for the reason?
I'm not blaming. I'm not.
Fact.
I'm just dealing with the facts, bro.
Listen. As much as he gave a great fact. I got to give him the points here for that one. That's a good point. We can't sit here and deny that point. That's all I'm saying.
Cute. It's cute, is what it is.
So Manny, why do we start with Jason Kidd if you're starting a franchise?
Because you could build players around him. He makes better players better. You could argue with me with that all day. But let's not forget, Jason Kidd plays defense as well. Yes, Chris Paul plays defense, but Jason Kidd was just as great as the defender. Plus, a point guard getting more rebounds than big men? Come on, bro. Are you serious right now? This man he's top 10 in three-pointers made. Top 10. Where's Chris Paul at? Where's Steve Nash at in that?
So,
they passed him already?
10, but he can't even shoot the
So Jason Kidd is a better defender than Chris Paul, but Jason Kidd has 4 times NBA All-Defensive First Team, and Chris Paul has 7. Explain that to me.
How many steals Chris Paul has?
He was the leader. He was the leader
Aren't they playing
6 seasons. Only player in NBA history to do that.
And you said Jason Kidd was only what, 4 times?
4 times. Well, I'm saying NBA All Defensive First Team 4 times. Yeah.
Okay.
And y'all could sit here and talk about all of this. Oh, bit of better facility.
Hold on. You said he was 4 time All Defensive.
NBA All Defensive.
Because last I checked, he was 9 times.
No, all around. I'm talking about first team. You're talking about all around. I'm talking about first team. The argument that I have against Nash, by the way, is his peak was too short. Zig, I don't know if you could agree with that.
I know. Listen, to be honest, I think when it's all said and done, when CP3 hangs it up, CP3 is going to be better than Steve Nash, in my opinion. CP3 will be better than Steve Nash for all the reasons that you mentioned. I really wished we got an opportunity to see how he was in with LA being able to get to the finals. At least I felt they underachieved. He spent a lot of time toiling around in the first round for a little bit and then getting bounced in the second round. So it would have been amazing to at least see him be able to get at least a trip to the championship, as we saw with Jason Kidd 3 different times.
Unfortunately, no disrespect to Mr. Dwight Howard, but Kobe was too busy babysitting that year, telling Dwight, "You're not the man in LA." So that's another.
So to wrap up, Manny, final thoughts here.
I'm just gonna go Jason Kidd because I'm biased and I'm a Nets fan, and I'm gonna stick with Jason Kidd. I don't really care what you have to say. Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd's still my GOAT.
I respect the honesty, bro. I respect the honesty.
94, I'm gonna stick with him. Obviously, the other 2 gentlemen actually put up great points for their guys, and I'll give them respect for that. But Jason Kidd's still better than both of them. You can pass these hands after the holidays.
Ziggy?
Listen, man, you already heard my case for Steve Nash. I like efficiency. I like the game that he played. A lot of people spend a lot of time talking about his Phoenix days, but they don't talk about his Dallas days as well, where he was running the show as the point guard while Dirk led the way scoring. You can't go wrong with either of these individuals. They all brought their own success, as we saw growing up and watching these guys. But Steve Nash is the man that I'm going to go with. And screw everybody that's in the comments saying that he's last. I don't give a damn what any of y'all got to say.
Okay. None of them could fight.
Andre's final thoughts.
Listen, man. Christopher Emmanuel Paul, CP3, the point guard. His longevity, his steal and assist, his IQ, just being able. I mean, we saw it in 2018 when the Rockets gave up their core for Chris Paul. They were able to go up 3-2 on the Warriors. They won 65 games. Chris Paul faced 15 teams that won 50-plus games in the playoffs. Jason Kidd only faced, I think it was 2 or 3 during his prime. The East in the 2000s was weak. This goes all to the 23 fans, too, that loves bragging about the 07 run. The East during conference in the 2000s was the weakest it's ever been. That's
We're
all I'm
not
gonna
gonna
say.
sit here and do that, man. I've told
Carl,
you this
Carl,
already.
what is it? Carl, what is it that that you guys always say when you guys do debates?
Did you switch jackets?
We can't.
He did
we
change
can't-
jackets, by the way. I did peep that. Yeah, you did.
It's reversible.
Listen, we can't
my
hold who
man.
they like. I hate when we use that argument. Like,
But Carl,
you can't
hold
hold
on.
that
But
against the
Carl,
player who they
isn't
played
it-
against.
Isn't it when you guys are arguing and debating and stuff like that? We can't control the fact that Jason Kidd started in '94, Steve Nash started in '96. We can't go by that.
We
It's
can't.
based on their
I'm not
eras they
saying that.
played. That's it. But that's what you just said. Oh, Jason
I'm
Kidd
just
played
saying.
only
No.
50
I
plus
said.
win teams.
Besides the fact that you play who's in front of you, what's more impressive? If you face a
So wait,
61 team-
what years were you saying the East was weak? Give me a range again. What years?
What years?
Early 2000s, 2001.
Early 2000s, until like 08, 09. To be
So
honest.
So that means, so to use your logic, that means the Heat run was weak because the East was weak into 06.
The Pistons won 60 games, bro. What are you talking about?
But I'm saying what you said.
Pistons won 60
The
games,
Pistons,
bro.
I said what you said. Listen, you notice how it changed, right?
Hold up.
You see how it changed, right? I just
The
said,
Chargers only won
you know
one.
what? Hold on one second. I specifically asked him what years because I set him up for the trap. And you know I'm right. He
That's a
specifically
terrible
said-
bait. That's
he said
terrible
to
bait.
08, the East was the
Go
weakest
for
it's ever been. So I can sit here and say, well, the Miami Heat's championship was weak because the East was weak.
Okay,
That's why they won.
they played a 51 team and a 61 team. You know how many 51 teams in
That's
this
not
played?
going to
One.
your point, though. So my point
That is
again,
going
we
to
can't
my
say that-
point.
We can't sit here and
Listen,
say that. We
Is this
can't
guy
sit
the
here and say-
moderator? Is this like?
I
what
had
is
to
this?
call a spade a spade. I'm sorry. I had to switch my hat on. I'm sorry. I for some reason that just irks me when someone says
Where's
just
the
about to say,
democracy?
Carl,
we have to
Carl
stop
made
doing that.
This
It's
is
not
unbelievable,
hypocrisy.
man.
We,
Come
It
on.
was
we have to
hilarious.
stop doing that though. We have to stop saying the East was weak. We have to stop saying that though.
It
We can't
was.
say that.
The facts are there, bro.
So
All right,
hold on,
guys.
Carl. So apparently he said the East was weak during those years, right? So I guess the Celtics run was weak too, right?
It is what
If we
it is.
going by his logic,
I'm not going to mention my team
What?
because I know
The
it's
Celtics.
completely
What?
biased.
What happened with the Celtics?
He said that you're saying that the Celtics.
Said, yeah,
run
yourself
was weak.
saying the Celtics run was weak as well.
The 08 run? Yes, the 08 Celtics most overrated championship team in history. What?
Oh shit! I'm gonna let Carl handle that one.
Look
No,
at that.
I'm
He put the
not.
bait. He threw me the alley-oop. Oh, look at
No,
that.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm tired of debating that. I'm
Carl,
happy
Carl,
with my
Seven
guy.
games with the
just say-
8 seed Hawks. 7 games with the Cavs. 6
That's
games with the
fine.
Pistons.
I can sit here and take blows at him too, but I'm not going to sit here and do that about
Carl.
how. Listen, I can sit here and say how Shaq and LeBron saved this guy's career, but we're not going to do that. So I'm
He
going to
didn't though. He didn't though.
Listen, it is what it
Didn't.
is. I mean, I'm not going to sit here like listen without Shaq.
Carl,
was
just say-
LeBron before?
just say-
LeBron. But he
Carl,
wants to
just
be
say the
petty. I can
word.
be just as petty. It is what it is. You guys, thank you for
'cause-
joining me. What happened, Andres?
One more thing. Rest in peace to Diego Armando Maradona. I'm not wearing his jersey right now, but
For sure, bro.
even if you don't watch soccer, you know who this is. It's just like the Pope, just like he was an iconic
hand of
global
God.
figure, like, just like Kobe. Like you know who he is if you heard his name. So
Legend.
rest in peace to Diego Maradona, who's passed at 60 years old today.
Yeah, it's really
Hand to
sad, man.
God.
Like I said, this year 2020, man. I'm
You
ready.
can't deal with too many of it, man. It's
No,
too
it's-
much.
You guys, thank you for joining us here on the Sports Hitters by the fans for the fans. Don't forget tomorrow we have a Thanksgiving Day special at 11 o'clock for
Happy
the fans out there.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'm definitely thankful and grateful for you guys. Definitely appreciative. Love you guys. You guys stay safe. Don't eat
Stay
too
safe.
much and party it up tomorrow for sure.
Shout
watching
out,
the sport-
shout out,
Go ahead,
shout
go ahead,
out
man.
to the shout out to the Ravens screwing up the best game matchup for tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? My chat's blowing up because we had a schedule on deck for tomorrow's show, and now I gotta shift segments and figure out what we get to talk about. 2 games that people necessarily don't care about. But we're
We
gonna
could
make it
talk about the
entertaining.
Raiders.
No, I don't think so. Not after Sunday's game, my man. You had it. Though. You had it. You had it.
We had it.
You guys take care.
Things
You're
happen.
watching the Sports Hitlers by the fans and for the fans. Let me bring in my final segment. I know this may not be on by popular demand, but it's something that we want to talk.
Segment is
Hardy Boys. Hardy
No,
Boys.
Yes, it is the greatest tag team all time. This is what they wanted to talk about.
all time.
All time, Ziggy. They want to talk about all time. This is what we're talking about. So,
I'ma keep
for
my
those of you
opinions
who
to
are
myself.
watching right now who may not care for this topic, share it with a friend who does want to talk about pro wrestling. That's what I want you guys to do. So, share it.
Oh, I'm about to leave right now, but I want to say no honorable mention to my guy Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man, Mega Powers.
All right, there we go. He's throwing in the mega powers into this debate. We got
Throwback.
the- throwback. We got the Outlaw Zach Joe, Nick Maldonado. We got Mike Murillo and TK the Tank, Tom Kenya. TK, are you guys here? And Mike? Mike's
Yep.
here. TK, are you here, bro?
I'm here, Carl. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. How you doing, man? I can't see you, but I can hear you. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Oh yeah, I gotta start the video. My bad. Hold on. I'm going. There I am.
There you
How's
go.
it going?
So we are.
I'm
You
here.
guys are the final segment to close out. As I said, I know some of the people in the comments may not be happy with this segment coming on, but we are going to talk about it. If you don't want to
Why
watch
is that?
I would say switch it over to just share this with pro wrestling fans as we talk about the greatest tag team of all time. So Nick Molinaro raised the question. I'm going to give him the floor first because he believes the fix is in. So Nick, go for it. Who is your greatest tag team all time in pro wrestling history?
All right. So when I say this, I mean this with no disrespect to the greats. Like my favorite of all time, the Hardys. I love Matt and Jeff Hardy. They're great. Obviously, we brought up the Dudley Boys. They're great. But in my opinion, if you're going all time of wrestling, not just all time of WWE, it's the Young Bucks. Now, a lot of people, when I say that, they're going to laugh. They're going to be like, oh, you're out of your mind. But if you look at what they've done without the machine behind them, that machine being WWE, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I can read off some stats here. If you're just you want to talk about championships, they're 7-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, 1-time IWGP Tag Team Champions, 3-time Never Openweight, 6-man championships champions with 3 different partners, 3-time ROH, 4-time PWG, AAA, current AEW Tag Team Champions. And if you go on the Wikipedia page and you can look it up for yourself, they have held 36 different tag titles across 17 different companies all around the world. Now, that's impressive to do because you could be over in one company and then flop in another. I mean, the Young Bucks did. The Young Bucks were over in all these other companies, and they went to Impact and they turned into Max and Jeremy Buck, and they were horrible. So that just goes to show that the fact that they went into every single company they've almost ever worked for and won the world titles and took over is insane to me. You can also talk about how they were really that bridging gap between, the mainstream wrestling culture and New Japan. They were one of the big reasons why that New Japan and Ring of Honor started a working relationship, one of the first of its kind in wrestling, because New Japan had them under contract, but so did Ring of Honor. So they had to work together, and that elevated both companies. I just think that if you're looking on pure stats, and like I said, the big thing is not having that big machine of WWE behind them, I think it's the Young Bucks.
Okay, so he says the Young Bucks. So for those of our fans who may not know who the Young Bucks are, the Young Bucks are currently right now in AEW. I just want to throw that out to our fans, 'cause some of the fans
I'm
know
sorry
that.
for the smooth brain WWE fans, I should say.
I'm just letting you know. Okay, so TK the Tank, who is your greatest tag team all time?
For me, I thought about this a lot, and I tried to think, what a tag team is, and to me, a tag team is two guys who really work well with each other and work off each other and make something very special. There's been a lot of tag teams where the sum is not greater than the equal parts, where they end up splitting up because one guy might have more talent than the other. But the greatest tag team for me, regardless, is the Dudley Boys. They started in 1996 in Extreme Championship Wrestling, and they won the titles there. They won the titles in the WWE. They won the titles in TNA. They won the titles in NJPW. They were a tag team from 1996 to 2010 without breaking up. That's 14 years straight, never breaking up. We all talk about how amazing it is the New Day has gone on for so long, but the Dudley Boys were also such a big constant. And they had the triple threat ladder match. They had those ladder matches at WrestleMania and SummerSlam, and those were amazing. Really set the standard for what tag team wrestling could be. And they still, to this day, are really they're retired now, but they're still producers. But they're revered. They're really 23 championships across multiple places, and just great wrestlers to watch. And there's a difference between a team like the Dudley Boys and a team like the Young Bucks. Young Bucks, to me, are good, but there's just a big difference in when you're talking the best of all time. And I don't see the Young Bucks in the realm of the Dudley Boys yet. So for me, I like the Dudley Boys.
Zach.
I agree with Nick. I'm even wearing a Young Bucks t-shirt right now. And
What is that supposed to make us believe that because you're wearing a shirt that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
just asking.
I'm wearing a T-shirt to support my my favorite team. I don't see any of you guys wearing your favorite team's merch right now.
That's fine. I don't need to wear it to support them.
Yeah, we don't
I
need
haven't
to.
gone yet, but go ahead.
So I also have some research too. I have quotes from very, very high-profile people in the wrestling scene. People like Eric Bischoff, Matt Hardy, FTR, Chris Jericho, and Kenny Omega. Sure, Kenny Omega may be a biased standpoint, but he is still regarded as a great wrestler as well. Eric Bischoff said this upon Young Bucks match at Double or Nothing with the Lucha Bros. He said, "I can show this to a non-wrestling fan, and I can guarantee it that they would want to see more from these two teams." FTR also went on to say, "Our match with the Young Bucks is very important and the biggest match in tag team history." That's also putting themselves over and putting the Young Bucks over as well, because that feud has been hyped and has been like set in stone for so many years. Matt Hardy even said this is even, if you want to look this quote up, it's on the back of their book. Matt Hardy said, "The Young Bucks are two guys who not only beat the odds and to become one of the greatest, most popular tag teams ever, but also two industry-changing visionaries. Matt and Nick are two of the smartest, hardworking, passionate individuals I've ever met in my 28-year career. The Bucks will definitely leave pro wrestling industry in a much better place than they discovered it." Now, Chris Jericho also had some similar words. "These guys are pioneers of making it big in the pro wrestling business outside of the corporate structure by doing things their own way. On top of that, they remained the same guys and retained their strong family values the whole time. Matt and Nick are the true definition of success in the pro wrestling and beyond." So if you can prove to me that those quotes are fake and illegitimate, go right ahead. But they're not. These are quotes on the back of the Young Bucks book right now.
I know, but we're not talking about what they think. We want to know what you think, Zach. I don't
But
care
also,
what.
I'm putting in perspective that a lot of people that
No, I know, but I mean, you look at
higher
a team like the
ups.
Dudley Boys, they got an inanimate object. They got a table over. Like, what have the Young Bucks done? Sure, yeah, your peers are going to say nice things
What
about
have
you.
the Young
People
Bucks
that work
done?
with you are gonna say nice things about
They
you. But
created
what have
the
they done? Give
Super
me some
Kick
examples, Zach.
Party. They created the Super Kick Party.
Okay, guys. So Mike didn't get a
they were the
chance.
first to do a Super
Okay,
Kick.
so
They
guys,
got
we're
the
gonna get
Super
into
Kick
it. But
over.
Mike,
Is that
guys,
what they
listen.
did?
Mike didn't get a chance to give his opinion. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to say to anybody in Sports Hitless who's judging us and just doesn't want to see this, hey, listen, we are some good people right here. We bring in some views, so watch, okay? Please spread the word.
Speak
all right?
for yourself,
Please,
Mike.
No, I'm not a part of that. I'm separate.
Watch us, okay? Anyway, so Tom Kenny brought up the Dudley Boys, and I was kind of leaning towards that, and I was thinking the same thing, but then it came to mind that I was looking so many tag teams and just thinking about the whole industry. And it turns out the best tag team ever, in my personal opinion, are the Road Warriors. There's no debating that.
It's a great
There's
pick.
just no debating that.
History,
Without the Road Warriors, there would be no Dudleys. There would be no Young Bucks. They revolutionized everything. You know, they had their own thing, from the face paint to their own saying. They had this cool gear. It's like they changed everything. And before WWE, they were all around. They were in Japan. They're actually one of the very few teams in the beginning to have the relationship between the WWE and Japan start, because they were so popular in Japan. I mean, they were just a great team. Not to mention, they went through so many trials and tribulations within their career. Animal had an addiction to all kind of drugs, and he had to overcome that in order to be a better wrestler. He overcame that. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he overcame that and got together with his partner, and even more success. Without them, there would be no great tag teams, in my opinion.
Okay, so it's tough for me to answer this question because I love tag team wrestling. It's definitely an art form that I feel like AEW does great now. Would I put the Young Bucks as top all time? No. My personal opinion, it's really hard to call. But I would say I'd have to agree with Tom Kenny when we talk about the Dudleys. And when we talk about the greatest of all time, we have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, wrestling, what you pro wrestling is twofold, because yes, you have to wrestle great, but you also have to entertain the crowd too, right? The Dudley Boys were able to do that to the level of their catchphrases, being able to be great on the mic. You go anywhere to a wrestling fan, all you have to say is Devon, and they know the line, and they're gonna finish it.
Get the tables.
Get the tables. They know it, and then all you have to say is 3D. So I think the element that I kind of disagree with Nick and Zach on is, again, I'm not taking it from the Young Bucks because their resume is outstanding. I've watched their matches. Their matches are incredible. I'm not going to sit here and disrespect them, but I will say though, we have to look at the flip side of it in terms of promos. We have to look at being the greatest has to deal with also box office and selling out places. And as much as you may believe, not working for the biggest wrestling company is not a detriment to your career. It kind of is in a sense. It's a personal choice, of course, but should you not want to work for the top company? That's like telling a NBA player, an NHL player, or NFL player, listen, I'm not going to work for the top company and go work at the low level companies, but then I'm still the best. To me, that doesn't add up.
Can I bring up one more thing?
I dispute.
Let me just bring up one thing. One thing real quick, because Zach was talking about quotes. There is not a single wrestling journalist or wrestler, for that matter, that could say a bad thing about the Road Warriors. So when you want to talk about quotes, you just brought up a little bit of guys. They have a whole stack of people that quote them and that love them. So I'm just making a better case for the Road Warriors.
I just want to touch on two things that Carl said. That obviously I agree with you 100% that the big part of wrestling is getting the crowd involved. And obviously, like I said, that line, if you say Devon, someone knows get the table. You say what's up, everyone knows that. And when it comes to, Young Buck fans, independent wrestling fans, they know that when you throw that up, a random stranger will also throw that up. When you say
no,
they'll also throw that up.
Hold on, let him finish. Let me counter that.
Okay.
The Young Bucks actually received a cease and desist from WWE because they made that so big. If that wasn't a problem, they didn't make it so big, they wouldn't have received a cease and desist. And they turned that into a best-selling T-shirt. So the Young Bucks capitalize on a lot of things. And another part that you said, that they don't want to work in the biggest company. It's like a basketball player not going to the NBA. I would agree with you and like I said, you're going to think it's a shot at WWE. It's not. It's honestly, I think we can all agree that as of right now, tag team wrestling is not the main focus of the WWE.
Fair. That's a fair point. Absolutely.
They have good tag teams, New Day, Street Profits. They have good tag teams, but that'd be like if you just say the NBA was, back like it was in the 80s when it was really bad and it was not, that good of a league. It's just, if they went to WWE, they would not be utilized and be able to use their full potential what they're using now. So I don't think that's a good comparison that, they've never worked for the best company when the best company doesn't really prioritize what their specialty is right now.
So that's a bad thing to bring up.
Hold on, TK, I'm going to get to you, but but to counter this, this did not come from the Young Bucks. We know where this came from.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm just saying, who made this famous. I'm just letting you know.
The NWO.
NWO.
Oh, not even the NWO. This is from the Clique. The Clique started it, and it went over to the NWO because you had members of the Clique who went to the NWO. That's where that all originated.
And like I said, that's the big thing. Like I said with the Young Bucks is they used to throw up the 2 Sweet all the time, and then they received a cease and desist from WWE. Same thing with Suck It. They couldn't use that anymore. Both were T-shirts, best-selling T-shirts. And if you also talk about mainstream, recognizability, their new book, Young Bucks, that at Barnes & Noble's was number 11 last week when it released on the Barnes & Noble's top 100. So if you don't think that they're mainstream, then I don't know. I think they're more.
Well, you know what? I mean, number 11 is not number 1, but TK, go ahead, man.
Hey, for guys that nobody knows, it's pretty good.
Well, see, this is just a basic problem with Young Bucks, and they are very athletic and they do some crazy stuff in the ring. No one's denying that, but. For example, Carl, I think you can relate to this. I've seen Young Bucks as Generation Me in TNA way back 10 years ago. And I saw a couple of their matches. I just thought they were kind of spot filled and whatever. But, they've gotten better over time. But still, even with AEW, and I've watched some of the pay-per-views, Carl, I don't know which one's Nick and which one's Matt Jackson. I don't know.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, TK, you took the words out of my mouth.
Hey, Usos. Hey, Usos.
I can tell the Usos apart. I can tell the Usos apart easily. You can tell the Usos apart.
Yeah, you can tell them apart now.
No, I can tell them apart. It's easy. Jay has the cross on his arm. Jimmy doesn't. It's simple. That's how you tell them apart. You can tell them apart.
Jazz has the facial hair. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. It's not like the Bellator.
That's a great point. That's a great point, TK.
If they don't have enough charisma to shine on their own. They need to stay together. That's why they don't make it under the bright lights of the TNA or the WWE. Once they're on TV, you kind of see these guys are lacking charisma. So while they can go to different promotions and do very well and do a lot of cool stuff, they don't have enough charisma. You look at the Dudley Boys, it seemed like that. Either one of those guys could have succeeded on their own. You saw Bully Ray was a successful singles run. He won the world title.
So
I don't think Matt or Nick Jackson could ever go on and win a world title on their own.
I'm gonna chime in. You're saying they're lacking charisma. Also, beyond that, like WWE has offered both like Matt and Nick Jackson. Kenny Omega.
I'm not saying they wouldn't be great.
No. Hey, let me finish. Let me finish.
Go for it.
They have been offered WWE contracts the day before like AEW was formed, and it's been quoted in their book. They were sitting in their hotel rooms waiting for a phone call from either person, and they were going to take the one whoever called first. And who called first? Tony Khan.
Well, WWE also signed Vladimir Kozlov. They don't always sign the most charismatic guys. I'm just talking about charisma.
We're ignoring
charisma though. That's just like you, like I said, you're a very casual Young Bucks fan, so obviously you might not see that. But if you follow them,
yeah, but I've been watching their matches for 2 years.
You know what it is though? I find it's just tough with the history of tag team wrestling in any promotion, because we're not just talking WWE.
Yeah.
We're talking NWA, AWA, WCW. There's been a long history of wrestling. The Young Bucks are pretty relatively young, and to consider them the greatest of all
no
time,
pun intended.
I think that's
another thing, because we're ignoring.
Wait, hold on, Michael. Go ahead, Nick.
I will say that the title list was greatest tag team, so I wasn't envisioning of all time. And also, too, you know my motto, Carl. If I really didn't watch them, I'm not going to make a case for them. So I can't sit here and like your friend said, the Mega Powers, Macho Man, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, I'm sure they were great. I just have not watched enough of them as a team to argue that. So I'm following who I've been following since I was 14 years old.
Fine.
That's why I'll make the case.
Let me just say this one thing, okay? Now, without the Road Warriors, there would not be Dudley Boys or Young Bucks.
No, actually, if it wasn't for the Rock and Roll Express, there would be no Young Bucks.
Well, there's a lot of other tag teams we haven't talked about. There's the Fabulous Freebirds. There's the Midnight Express. There's the Rockers. The Rockers, ironically, never won tag team gold.
TK, we also have a Mountain Rushmore coming up, so that's why certain names haven't been brought up.
Right,
So
but you know what? It's a matter of knowing history, and like I said, I'm not going to sit here and disrespect the Young Bucks, because what they do is phenomenal. I just think when we talk about where do they rank if we're going to make a list? And as Mike just previewed, we are going to get into our pro wrestling Mount Rushmore. The first episode is tag teams. Do the Young Bucks make an ultimate Mount Rushmore list of tag teams? When you're talking about tag teams in wrestling, we still haven't talked about the Nasty Boys. We haven't talked about the Steiners. You haven't talked about the Hart Foundation. You haven't talked about the Four Horsemen that were evident in NWA. You didn't talk about the Wild Samoans. There are a lot of tag teams that have gone through the years. Even Harlem Heat, who was never really a WWE, but a WCW powerhouse.
Harlem Heat was great. Consistency. You want to talk about
there's a lot of tag teams.
Heat.
So it's a question of, okay, as a pro wrestling fan, where are you going to put the Young Bucks?
Wait, but Carl, hold on a second. But Nick brought something up that he says that he's kind of, and Nick, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going on tag teams that you've seen the most. So of course he's going to put the younger tag teams there, being that he's seen those tag teams more. You know what I mean?
And that's why I started my opening case with no disrespect to guys like the Road Warriors, Rock and Roll Express, all these guys. Like, I just did not get to see enough of them to make a definitive argument for them. Whereas I've seen the Young Bucks, since I was 14, been following them, Japan, all these different companies that they've worked for. So I can make an easier case for them.
So Zach, is that your reasoning too?
Yeah, I've experienced more with the Young Bucks. I'm still a young wrestling fan. I came into the wrestling scene like late 2008, early 2009.
Yeah. Same.
So at that point, the Hardys were essentially broken up, and they were having their feud at that moment in WWE. So I didn't get to experience such tag teams. Like if I'm to have my own, when we do our Mount Rushmore, I'm assuming that that's for individually for everyone here, right? Our own Mount Rushmore, or is that just
the way the Mount Rushmore works is everyone gets to pick their own 4 picks, and then from the 4 picks you will pick one to make the ultimate, and then the entire panel has to agree on who makes the hit list. That's how it works.
But no, for me, if I never got to experience the Young Bucks, I would put more younger team on this list, like the Usos. Like Usos and New Day have had some of the greatest tag team matches in WWE history as of recent times.
But that's just so unfair, though. That
But
really,
like,
that's so
I'm
unfair.
still a young fan, so
Well,
you have to give
I
the
don't think it's
benefit of the
unfair.
doubt.
I think you can still speak for the younger generation. I don't think there should be not counted. I think the Usos and New Day have been absolutely phenomenal. I think the Young Bucks have had a great career. They've been together for a long time. They've never broken up because they don't have the charisma to do so. But they're still together.
No,
They're still doing
actually, there's always been teases of them breaking up.
I have backhanded compliments. You said
And now, hey, also, Carl, you opened up with us saying, for those who don't know the Young Bucks, I'm sorry, our numbers on the AEW injection prove otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
no.
Also, too, Carl,
do know.
real quick. You talk about how with the WWE, why did FTR turn down almost 7-figure contracts from the WWE to go work with the Young Bucks?
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say WWE is perfect. Listen, they're not. Especially when it comes to tag team wrestling. We have seen. Listen, we have seen them lack in that division. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but again, it goes back to the root of the question: is about the greatest of all. Like that was what was questioned, and I specifically asked it in the group to make sure I was getting the wording right. Yeah. When we're talking about the greatest of all time,
I mean. Talking about the greatest of all time, the Dudley Boys, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, voted them the best tag team from 2000, 2009, best tag team in those individual years. I think, they've got a lot of accolades from other people, and they've really built it up over a long, long time.
And you know what? We haven't even talked about two of my other favorite ones, the Hardy Boys and the Edge and Christian. Where do we put them?
Yeah,
and they had a great run during the time.
I almost picked Edge and Christian.
You're gonna have to wait till not
absolutely.
No, wait, but hold on a second, because Zach just said something unfair. Okay, Zach just said that, okay, look at us, we get 400 views and this and that. Listen, at the end of the day, we're not talking about our generation of wrestling fans. Let's talk to, let's say, a 30-year-old who loved wrestling. Let's talk to a 35-year-old or a 40-year-old who loved wrestling. It's like, guys, do you know who the Young Bucks are? Or do you know who the Road Warriors are? They're going to be like, I think we know who the Road Warriors are, and I think we know who the Dudleys are. Young Bucks.
I mean, but that's the same. That's the same.
I'm 30. I know who the Young Bucks are.
That's the same thing as asking somebody who hasn't watched basketball in 10 years who Luka Doncic is. He's not going to know. But Luka Doncic is a great player. So
but exactly. But that's what I mean, though.
Not a good argument.
You got to have more history. They don't have the history yet. Like, okay, 20 years from now, we're going to remember them. We're probably going to think they're the greatest of all time. But they don't have the history that these guys have.
Yeah. All right, guys. TK.
How about the APA?
APA is up there. TK, final thoughts for this segment. Greatest tag team all time.
Final thoughts. There's been a lot of great tag teams. And the good thing about tag teams is that you can really track them through different companies. Like I said, the Dudley Boys started out in ECW, went to WWF, WWE, was in TNA, NJPW, and you can see that they were just successful everywhere. And when you're a really great tag team, you really leave your mark. And that's what the Dudley Boys did, in my opinion. Devon, get the tables, just off the top rope, the headbutt, all that stuff, the 3D, going to Dudleyville. They even got another guy, Spike Dudley, over by just association, just by bringing him into their tag team family. And they really, at a time where all eyes were on wrestling, they really shone and rose to the top, just like the cream does rise to the top, and just like the best will outshine the others. The Dudley Boys were one of the best, and if not the best tag team I've ever seen. So just
all right. Zach, final thoughts?
I have given all my stuff. I'm dealing with a cough right now. So sorry. I still hold my opinion, and I will stand by it until I'm blue in the face. I think the Young Bucks, they have done so much more in such a short amount of time, and they have proven themselves to be one of the best. And to me personally, once again, we had to remind people here, this is an opinion part for us. I see them as one of the best. For my opinion, they are one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Okay, Mike.
First off, I'm looking at Zach's face, and Zach is so red right now. It seems as if though he's boiling right now.
No,
he's gonna
I'm
pop on all of
underneath
us.
a different light.
It seems like you're gonna pop on all of us. Listen, at the end of the day,
I may pop off on you, but that's besides the point.
Listen, at the end of the day, for me, it's about history, and that's just my opinion. And I take a look at the general consensus that you ask more people who have been wrestling fans for a long time, and they're gonna say Road Warriors. I'm just going by that. The reason, again, why I don't say Young Bucks is because they don't necessarily have the history just yet. But if you guys want to judge based on what you've just recently seen, then okay, fine, I'll accept that. But I just think majority of the population around the world will just prefer, even in Japan, will just say Road Warriors.
Nick.
Yeah, I have to agree with what TK said, that it's very important that you leave a mark in the company you work for, and I truly believe that the Young Bucks have left every single company they've ever worked for better when they left than when they founded. And I think that the fact they did it all on their own, that should give them a lot of huge points. So I'm sticking with the Young Bucks.
Well, I'm just gonna wrap up. You guys pretty much touched upon everything that we need to say about tag teams, and I think it's true wrestling fans appreciate great tag teams, and I think they definitely add on the element. Sometimes the tag teams steal the show better than the main event. I remember a time watching up where the TLC matches stole the show, and the main event guys are like, "How the hell do we follow that?" Between Edge and Christian Dudley boys and the Hardy Boys. So over the test of time, I think tag team wrestling is still pretty evident. I think some promotions do it better than others, but I think that conversation about the greatest should be open to just knowing history and looking at let's look at every single tag team we can. So definitely, guys, thank you so much for entertaining the conversation. Thank you to all our fans for watching and supporting the Sports Hit List. Please continue to like, share, comment, subscribe. The final installment to end the year of our Mount Rushmore that we started back in July with the NFL concludes with pro wrestling. So thank you to all of our Hit List contributors all across the board. We started this back, special shout out to Andres. It was his idea and concept. We started it way back when the pandemic hit in July with the NFL. We transitioned to the MLB. We finished the NBA and pro wrestling. I like to say, I guess we saved the best for last, and we finished out with.
That's right.
Please tune in.
Thank you to all our fans. Please continue like, share, comment, subscribe. We have a lot of stuff coming. Please make sure you check out tomorrow. We will have a Thanksgiving Day special with the NFL. So before you eat your turkey and you stuff your face, and before you watch the terrible Washington football team versus the Dallas Cowgirls, make sure you watch us at 11 a.m. We have that before you watch the Lions. They just told us that the Steelers-Ravens game is postponed until Sunday. Hold off on that NFC least. But tomorrow, 11 o'clock, here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, we will have a Thanksgiving special with the NFL team. And Sunday, we will have Week 12 preview at 12:15. And be sure to tune into all of our content. And you guys take care. Happy Thanksgiving.